Hello, everybody. I'm Kasim with Solutions 8. This is my business partner, John Moran.
I'm John Moran.
And we've got a hell of a topic for you today, John. What are we talking about?
Yeah, so we had this small issue where we would actually start to raise budgets, and then the clients would instantaneously think, okay, well, where's all my conversions? And through digging through attribution, I found out that there's like a little bit of delay of when you give Google money and people start to see your ad, and when they buy, there's a little bit of delay that happens there. And I figured this out. It took me like 2 or 3 weeks to figure out, exactly, and like pinpoint this down to like hyper specificity what was going on. And I was a genius. I was the smartest person you ever met, and I thought no one's ever going to figure it out. And then Google figured it out too. So I was smarter than Google there for a few weeks, I think. And then they just made it part of the dashboard. And so it's funny is I get this question all the time, and I reteach this almost like kind of every single time to even same clients. And it's just always something that comes up as to, well, last week looked really good, but this week's not looking too good. Let me share my screen to show you exactly what I mean. Right. So can you see the screen here?
Yep, looking at it.
Okay. So what we're looking at is the last 7 days, not including today, because today's not over yet. But when we look at the last 7 days, the 20th through the 26th, and yes, that is 7 days if you count the 20th for those bad at math. The return on ad spend here is 568. Now, I remember last week when we spoke to the client, it was about 568. We do a weekly update with this client. But now look back at the previous week, so 13th through the 19th, which is same as the 20th through the 26th, apply. 914% return on ad spend. It's almost doubled. Smart shopping, 732% return on ad spend. Brand obviously does really good, but 40 clicks and 8 sales for 17% conversion rate. This is awesome. And so each time we would view the week's performance so far, it was only like halfway as good as if we just reviewed it the following week. And what I looked at here is normally what we'd have to do is something called attribution, which is how many clicks does it take, how many days before they buy, how many interactions does it take. Well, now Google started to underline things inside of their dashboard here. You'll sometimes see a blue bar here. They'll actually give you the timeline. It'll start like right there and then say like, hey, it's going to take this many days before all of these conversion values can be counted. And let me see if I can do conversion value. Maybe that'll get it to pop up. I'm trying to get this thing to pop up again so that I can kind of share it with everyone.
What's the pop-up you're looking for, like an alert that explains the situation?
No, it's like a big blue bar. I mean, it's like the biggest blue bar you've ever seen in Google Ads. But anyway, what's kind of cool about it is if you hover over here and you hover over conversion value, and you'll see this new pop-up. It takes 6 days after impression for most of your conversion value to be reported. So what that usually means is if you're looking at a week period, it's going to take another, you're only looking at the first full day of that attribution window. So we're only looking at probably, a quarter to half of what the actual sales are going to be for this window, because if a person clicks on an ad on Tuesday and buys on Friday, and they don't use any other ad clicks in between there, Tuesday is going to get the value, because like, hey, that click on Tuesday ultimately led to a purchase on Friday, and then Tuesday is just going to look good. Well, when you look at a week and then you kind of archive it and you look at the next week, that last week that you archive is actually growing. So what's interesting is looking at the conversion value, the return on ad spend here is not true yet.
So when we look at this next week, this ROAS for the same period is going to be 900 and some odd percent probably.
Yeah, I would imagine it'd be somewhere between like 800 and 1,000, right? And so this delayed attribution, when you're thinking about your Google Ads campaign, you have to think about, whenever I look at performance, hover over any of these underlines, and these different for each one. For conversions, take 2 days for them to convert, and then 6 days for the conversion value to be reported. So this is going to be kind of a learning curve for you to kind of highlight over it and say, okay, if it takes 10 days, I really can't look at the most recent 10 days. It's just not going to be accurate information. So don't judge a campaign based on that.
Or is this for e-commerce only?
No, you can do conversions, because you can have conversions and conversion value are going to be 2 different things. So e-commerce, it'll work for it. Lead generation, it'll work for it. It'll just say not all of your conversions will be counted. It works for any campaign type that's tracking conversions.
The reason I was asking is because I know that e-commerce campaigns tend to rely really heavily on analytics for conversion tracking. I thought maybe it had to do with that tie-in, but you're saying that this same attribution delay is applicable to all campaigns regardless of campaign type.
Yeah, if it's analytics or if you're using Google Tag Manager, if you're not tracking anything at all, call us. But if you're using analytics or Google Tag Manager, yep, it'll be the same thing for lead generation and e-commerce.
So has it always been this way and Google's just now telling us?
Well, I think so. Well, Google actually has this thing called attribution here, but no one knew how to like go into the tools and settings, go into attribution, look at tops, and then look at the last 90-day look back window and open up to a good amount of time, and then start to count how many times a more than 2 ad clicks came about, or looking at path metrics and figuring out that it takes 1.6 days to conversion on average. But the conversion value is much higher than that because they buy more and repeat often. So you have someone buy one and then 10 days later will buy two. Well, that average is going to be that 6-day period. So this has kind of now been taken from this report that no one knew what it was and no one really cared about, and then putting it right on your homepage. It says, okay, because of this, don't look at this date here. The date's not completed yet. Even though it was yesterday, it's still not completed yet because people clicked yesterday, may buy tomorrow.
The attribution modeling that you just showed me, even if you knew what you were looking for, it'd be pretty tough. I mean, you'd have to compare window to window, take a snapshot, and then come back.
Right. And that's why they put that big blue bar there now, I think. And I was trying to show that today, but it's just not showing up. But that's why they put that big blue bar there, because if you're looking at it, it says, wow, now we're awesome, so we make 5.5 times the money back. So, I mean, even our half performance is still crushing it. But if you had a bad campaign and you're looking at this and say, man, this week's just terrible, give it a week. That week will look better.
Well, dude, the implications here are really actually staggering if you think about it. You can't make data-driven decisions until you have all of the data, obviously. And Google just told us that we're basically running a 1-week lag. And in so many cases, you shouldn't be making decisions unless you have at least more than a week's worth of data. So we're talking about 2 or 3 weeks at a minimum before people should start tweaking just about anything.
Yeah, and we've kind of remedied that solution for reporting here. We send out our reports on the 15th for the previous month. So the entire month of March, that data will get to you on April 15th, because then you have that 2-week lag time that's already been taken up, and now you're looking at a really full shot of March on April 15th. But if you're looking at like, okay, it's the 31st of the month, how do we do this month? You're only seeing probably either 50% or 75% of the story so far.
6 days, the hard and fast rule, or have you seen that fluctuate?
No, we have another client, and I won't name the name, but they have 28-day. Their lead generation, large company that develops hardware for very specific applications in very large industries. Yeah. So sales cycle is pretty large. But yeah, it takes 28 days. So whenever we have on the phone, it's like, April 30th, I'm like, let's take a look at March. You're like, why? It's like,
how do you optimize a campaign like that? Like, that's got to make your job so hard.
It's weird. You get to play with it though. The cool part about this is you get to start to like front load. I'll pull up an example, and I know we're going to hide the names here to keep them anonymous. But what's kind of cool is you get to see, let me just pull this up so I can actually get to the good information. We can see that if we front load a campaign, this one on April 1st through the 30th, the first few days we front loaded, where we're spending, $400 and $500 a day. And the conversion value by cost, which is just basically return on ad spend, that amount was low. We're making 220%, 330%, 147%, which we need to make at least 180% for it to come in. And when we front loaded the month, you can see after that, when we backed it down the spend and only spent about 120, we saw 890% conversion, 890% return on ad spend, 717. Then we had some low ones, which was 521. Odd day here. I only made 200% that day, but then 1,000% ROAS. So we front loaded it and then said, okay, how do we normalize it? Looking back at that month, and found out that we had a 400% return on ad spend. Okay, now let's try to just consistently climb, consistently increase ad spend. What happens there? Well, the red line's the cost. As we start to consistently increase the cost here, we find that we have a 508% return on ad spend. So we did like 110 or 120% better than the month before. And we're still not even done with this month yet, because it takes on average, this one, 9 days for that campaign, 10 days for that campaign, 4 days for that campaign. Let's see, what's this one here? 15 days for smart shopping.
Do you have any sense as to why it's taking this long for Google to port this data in?
Yeah, each campaign does something different. Dynamic search ads vary, like I'm looking for something really specific, and we get a really specific page for that user. 9 days. Okay, so your average sales cycle of about $120 product is 9 days. And it's a hair care, so you might have, your You're very particular about what you put in your hair. I'm not because I'm bald, but most people are, I guess. But for smart shopping, this is outbound. So we're getting 230 or 260,000 impressions, and we're trying to find people to buy. And so we have to take longer to convince them. So that takes 15 days. So each type of campaign has a certain functionality, and some sales cycles are shorter, some are longer. But then you look at it and just kind of average it out, that we maybe only be looking at half the month so far, which we could see 16th, which is about 11 days ago. Our conversion value by cost is looking great, and then it falls off. Normally you'd be like, oh my God, why is our conversion value dropping? Well, give it 2 weeks. This will look like the line it is right before that. Pretty cool stuff.
Well, so it's brilliant on Google's part because they're showing you, it's kind of like a, hey, wait a minute, we're not done, which I understand.
Keep spending money, trust us.
So, but here's my question though, is with delayed attribution, why do we still see fractions in the conversion values?
Because you're looking at actually with a 15-day lag time, you have to imagine we're looking at May 1st or 27th. What happened between April 15th and April 30th? They started to convert this month. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then also, I know this is a different topic and we'll get to this later, but just because we're on it, how do they assign those values? How do I know this click is worth 0.2 and this click is worth 0.8? Like,
oh, yeah, so we use a time decay attribution, and there's 3 scenarios that will take place that will develop a fraction. The first one is that if you're looking at a 30-day window, the click came before the 30-day window and the sale came after. And what it does is it divides up the conversion between those 2 points if there's 2 ad clicks that take place. So for example, on the 18th, they clicked on a smart shopping ad, and on the 2nd, they clicked on a smart shopping ad and then bought. So there's two conversion values that need to be split. It says, hey, this was the ad that they clicked on first. This is the ad that they clicked on second. They use the same campaign, but this is the timeline. And that's how they develop that lag right there. Scenario 2, on the 18th, they clicked on smart shopping. On the 3rd, they Googled the brand and clicked on the brand name and then purchased. Now you have not only a window of 2-month period where you have to look at, but also 2 different campaigns, correct? And then 3rd scenario is if you click on a campaign that is like let's say smart shopping on the 18th, and then it takes a week for them to purchase, but they don't go through the ads at all. You're going to have, but it's going to have a lag time of 10 days. It's simply just going to give all the conversion value to the one campaign click that they interface with. So 3 kind of scenarios that would develop a full or a broken down conversion. Time decay also means that on the 15th that they clicked and the 30th that they bought, it'll actually give more weight to the most recent action taken because that's the conversion action, but it'll give less weight to the starting point. But you get to see, okay, this is where they start, but it's really valuable when they sell. So I'll show you a lifestyle ad, got you interested, but this sale is what made you buy. So it helps you identify what's going to be your kind of top of funnel and bottom of the funnel value to give the campaigns for them to convert.
But between time decay attribution and then delayed attribution, you're getting the full sales cycle, like a full scope.
Yeah.
And we used to not get either of those.
No, yeah, we really didn't. And then what's nice about the attribution is then you get to see those kind of top paths. We just look back since like, I don't know, let's just do like February 1st. Anything that has all actions, conversions, we have 86 different scenarios that have taken place. And these are unique scenarios, so they won't look all the same. You'll see dynamic search ads and dynamic search ads here, but this is 1 visit for 295 sales and 20,000. But dynamic search ads 2 visits through that campaign that happened 53 times and made 4,100. But the further you go down, you're like, man, they clicked on brand, then they did dynamic search ads, and they clicked on brand again, or they did smart shopping, dynamic smart shopping. Like you get to see like, it gets crazy as the further you go down. But yeah, now you get to see the story. It's like, oh, so they clicked on, a smart shopping campaign, and then they did a dynamic search ad. They interacted with, then they just Googled the brand name and then they bought. So there's just really, really crazy stuff. But the higher you go up, the more weight it gives it. And then you see that brand, they have great brand recognition because they're doing a lot of influencer marketing. So they're just getting their name out. Dynamic search ads, these are great. Smart shopping, these are great. And then brand too.
I'll pause you on brand for just a minute. And obviously I would say this because it's so self-interested, but every single time we run traffic campaigns, brand goes through the roof, even if we can't tie it back to traffic. And then you stop the traffic campaign and then brand takes a big dive. Like can't we take, what percentage of the credit can just paid traffic take from branded campaigns? The branded conversion.
If you're talking about only running Google, look at the last 6 months of your organic traffic and then look at, as long time period as you can when running a Google ad campaign that also includes a brand campaign, and look at two things. Has your brand been increasing? Your impressions and clicks on your brand, because most people don't just like wake up one day and be like, man, I wonder if Solutions 8's a company in Scottsdale that does PPC. I'm gonna go search for that, and then I'm just gonna just type that brand name in. I mean, unless you sell like baseballs.com, then you have an awesome brand. But if you have a brand name that no one would just wake up one day and be like, I wonder, they had to have heard it from somewhere. So a lot of times what you'll see is we usually will see 200 and 300% increase to the brand name after running these campaigns, because if you think about it, since February 1st, we have over 1.1 million impressions in just this one campaign. But then you look at the brand, and you see that let me just go back a little bit further. We've been running this for about a year. Let's go back to January 1st. Let's get a good amount of data. So here's the impressions. We had to have a pause here. But, we went from impressions of 2,600 and 2,200 and 2,400, and then now it's up to 4,200. 2,000 more people.
Impressions almost.
Impressions, yeah. These are people that are Googling your brand name. So you want to kind of see that incrementally rise, and spend, as little money as possible on it while still protecting your brand name from the people who are bidding on it. Auction Insights will show you who's also bidding on your brand name. So we have to protect ourselves from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have to protect ourselves from 8 competitors trying to steal our traffic and be above us. So that in and of itself is a reason alone to run a brand campaign.
Yeah. Let's go back to the delayed attribution. What's the action item now? So you're a business owner, a strategist, or even an ads manager. What are you doing differently now that we know this?
Track all of your conversions, every single conversion that's possible, because each campaign is going to have a different result. Step 1. If you can't do step 1, everything else is just failed. Step 2, run time decay. Time decay is just going to give you so much information that you're just going to be so smart, and your clients, if you're as manager, are going to think you're almost as smart as me, which is great. The third one is going to be run your attribution models through analytics a lot. So look to see how they're interacting with not only Google Ads campaigns, but everything else. Because what you'll find is that you may lose so much money on Facebook, but all of a sudden it started to put more people into the smart shopping campaign. So don't think tunnel vision, think about everything else. Like, am I doing TV commercials, influencers, radio, like maybe even newspaper and billboards? Am I running Facebook and Instagram, whatever it may be. But look to see how outside influences start to affect your campaigns, because outside influences will start to lengthen that delay. You're like, man, now it's taking 30 days for someone to convert. Well, that's because they just heard you on a radio and took 2 of those times they started searching, and they have no idea who you are, but they haven't even seen the product yet or whatever it is. All those outside influences are gonna affect how long of a sales cycle it is.
What's the longest attribution window you've seen so far?
I have seen 29 days, and that's that larger company that we work with. But it does make sense because they get about 30 leads a month, but these are people like Jacuzzi that are contacting them. So it makes sense. Has to go through a few departments and get to the top before someone picks up the phone and says, I'd like to talk with you. But yeah, 30 days on average, usually about a week. Whenever I do weekly updates, I always now look at the last 3 weeks, and not including the last week that was viewed or that we're in now. And then our clients will say like, well, why don't you look at this week? And this is the reason why. So I decided, let's make a video about it, share all this information with everyone so that we know, if it ever comes up where it says, hey, recently our campaigns are just not doing too good. It's just not the case.
Yeah, be patient, wait for it.
Mm-hmm. And look at historical trends. If everything looks like it's going good and you haven't made any changes, all of a sudden last week just dipped, just wait.
Dude, I'd say kudos and props for catching this before Google puts it in the main dashboard. I think that's a really big deal.
I wish I had proof. Like, we could have made this video 3 months ago. You're really smart.
So that's why we need to keep producing these videos. And if you're watching, you gotta like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. But definitely subscribe, because we're gonna keep pumping this out. And I don't think other people are producing value this deep. Other people talk about Google Ads and how to run your own ad campaigns and whatever. But I'm willing to bet we're at least among the first to touch on stuff that, it gets this granular.
I'm working on my PhD in Google Ads, so this is high level stuff.
I tell people on sales calls, I'm like, there might be 1,000 people that know what we know about Google, and half of them work at Google.
Right, yeah. And I was smarter than those people for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's what we need to put those as well. All right, man. Well, what are we talking about tomorrow? Do we know yet?
Yeah, tomorrow, I'll have a good topic for tomorrow. So stay tuned. I'm going to develop probably a Patreon account so people can donate to. It'll keep you motivated. I won't share any of that money with Kasim, I promise. But yeah,
But elsewhere.
we'll have something fun.
Yeah. Cool, man. This is us
Awesome.
signing off. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, everyone.